Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, my beautiful pen friends, and welcome to another video with your host Andrew. And you join me on a very beautiful Saturday morning here in England. So, what have we got in store for you today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have got the Ranga Pens Giant 9B. So, stay tuned and let's find out how this pen works. Okay, so we have got the Ranga Pens Giant 9B. Now when you receive the pen, it will be presented in here with a free pen, possibly. I can't say that happens every single time because I've only ever had one. But I got a free pen, I got a spare nib, and I got this, all in the box. And there was a business card as well. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Beautifully presented. Some of there's a bit of staining on here, but to be honest, I think that adds to a bit of the charm and character of this pen. The box itself is, I believe, made out of a cardboard material, and then you've just got a nice sort of feltish base to it. But yeah, absolutely nicely presented. So let's just have a look at the dimensions of the pen. Okay, so Ranga Pens is a father and son operation out of India. They've been in the business for around about 50 years plus, and pretty much most of these pens are made, I think, entirely by hand, and they are even hand threaded, as you can see. We'll have a look at that more in detail in a moment. So let's just start looking over this pen, and then we'll go on to a drawing and writing sample in a moment. It's not going to be a long drawing today, just purely because I'm keeping these videos down in length. So let's start from the top and then work our way down to the bottom. So from the top we've got this torpedo-like top. Take this down ever so slightly to what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do this transition gap so you can see where that transition is. Lovely. And then it keeps coming down to the bottom where it's, again, you've got a very slender torpedo-like bottom. So let's just take the cap off and have a look under the hood. So we've got a number 6 Yovo nib, which is in duotone, and you've got Ranga Pens stamped on there. On the back you've got an ebonite feed with a fairly long section and threads, and then I'm just going to undo that ever so slightly. Underneath here you have got an eye dropped filled barrel, which has a humongous ink capacity. So let's just put that back on like so. Okay, let's have a look at those threads. I mean, that is beautifully machined by hand. Absolutely fantastic. Steps up quite sharply, but it's not actually uncomfortable, and then it just tapers down the main part of the body. So that's the pen in a nutshell. Now let's move on to the drawing and the writing section, and then I'll give you my thoughts and opinions after that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so what we're going to do now, we're going to do a writing test. I have had to heat set the nib because the tines were a little bit too splayed. Heat setting is actually quite easy to do, and there's been quite a good video from Emmy on Pen Venture showing you how to do this. I took a risk with this being an ebonite section, and I only dipped only about halfway through the actual feed, and it seems to have closed the tine. So let's see how this actually works. So we have got the Ranga Giant 9B. Yeah, that's a little bit more tamer. It was writing really wet beforehand, and whilst that was great, To some extent, it was a little bit too wet. So this has dried it up a little bit, which is good, and hopefully it will be a little bit more consistent. So let's write out the quick brown fox. Apologies for the ghosting, but I'm trying to conserve the actual book, and these are quite expensive. This is a Pebble Bay Stationery Sakura edition. Cool. I did forget the ink, so let's just write that in very quickly. We have got Santini blue. Okay, right, so let's see how this pen works now that I have closed the tines. Yep, still wet. Okay, let's just test the lines. Perfect. Yep. Pretty good. Okay, let's see if there's any line variation here. Yes, there is. And the tines seem to be closing back again. So let's just do some figure of eight. As you can see, beautiful. Let's just do that with a letter. Cool. And as we can see, there's no issues with that whatsoever. So let's see if we can reverse write with this. And yes, we get a real extra fine line variation there. So that's the reverse. And there you go. You can see that there's significant line difference here. Absolutely fantastic. And it's actually quite smooth. So there really isn't too much of an issue with this whatsoever. Both directions are absolutely fine, and the feed seems to keep up perfectly. I was having initial issues with the pen just stopping, but since doing the actual sort of heat setting of the nib, it does seem to be working much better. So that's the writing sample. Let's move on to doing a drawing, and we're just going to do it on the same page today, just to try and keep some of the actual pages intact. Although I do have quite a bit of pages list, I have got more pen reviews coming up, and I do love this Tomoe River paper. So let's have a go at just doing something quite simple. I'm just going to do some tomatoes today, and this is just going to be really quick. So we're not going to do anything too extensive with this today, because I want to try and keep these videos down in size if possible. As you can see, this nib really does keep up beautifully as I just draw these vines in.
Right, let's just do a quick size comparison of these pens. Starting from the left and then moving to the right, we have got the Shown Design Pocket 6 in Sumonagashi, which features the cinnamon swirls. Then we got the Nakaya Piccolo Cigar in Midori Tamenuir. And then we got the Lamy Vista, which has been hand-painted by myself and customized. Next up, we've got the Santini Libra in Amber. Then we've got the Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande, bit of a mouthful, in Arco Brown. And then lastly, we got the Ranga Pens Giant 9B. And as you can see, really dwarfs the rest of those models out there. So what we'll do next, we'll get the pens uncapped, and then we'll have a look at how they compare uncapped. Right, so uncapped, let's have a look at these. Okay, I've purposely not put the cap onto the posting for the Shown Design, just because I thought it'd be quite comical just to see how the pens actually compare to each other. If you're using the Shown Design Pocket 6, you are supposed to post the actual cap on the threads on the end of the barrel. So do take that into consideration. But anyway, as you can see, uncapped, the Giant 9B still dwarfs the competition. I wouldn't even bother posting it because it would just make it look way too comical. Anyway, I hope that has proved useful. Let's move on to the rest of the review and I shall share my thoughts and opinions.
Okay, so what are my thoughts and opinions on this? So let's just talk about the pros and cons of this pen. And there's only really two cons with this pen, and one is only subjective. So the first one is unscrewing the cap. You do have to unscrew it quite a lot to take the cap off, and for some people that might be a bit of a pain. I think there are obviously bigger problems in life than unscrewing a cap personally. I certainly fall into the sort of side of, it doesn't really bother me. If it takes 10 times to take the cap off, it's not really going to faze me. It's just unscrewing a cap. How difficult is that at the end of the day? But the only real complaint I had was when I received the pen, the tines were ever so slightly splayed across, and I had to heat set it. But thanks to Emmy from Pen Venture, who did have a fantastic video on showing how to do that. This is an Ebonite section, so I just literally dumped the nib and the feed into some boiling water, but only to about the halfway point. So the actual section never got submerged. It's now absolutely fantastic, and there's no issues with it whatsoever. With the tines ever so slightly spread apart, what was happening was you'd get a really wet writing experience, which was quite pleasant actually. But then what would happen would the ink would stop coming through, and yeah, that was a bit of a pain. So that was the only real con to this. Positives, well, the size, the balance, the nib, the options for those nibs. If you go onto Ranga's website, you have got an extensive list of options, especially on the 3-in-1 filling systems. Not quite sure why it's not on the standard Giant 9B. Perhaps someone can explain why that isn't perhaps an option. The Giant 9B can come in a variety of finishes. You can have it with a clip. You can also have in a polished finish. And there are a ton of Ebonite finishes available for this pen as well. That's it really. You know, it's a beautiful hand finished pen. The matte finish on this is fantastic, and as I have said, I will plan on getting this Urushi, or if I didn't mention it, I am going to get this pen sent to someone like Michael, or maybe even go to Japan to Bokumondu to get some work done on this, because I think some Urushi on here would look absolutely fantastic. But there's something to be said about this sort of stealth black material, and it is absolutely stunning. So anyway, that's the pen. That's my thoughts and opinions. I hope that has proved of use, and I hope you do go and check out Ranga Pens, because they are a fantastic little manufacturer from India, and I think they deserve a lot more recognition than they currently get. So that's the review. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you in the next video, and please do consider liking, subscribing, and sending a comment about what you enjoyed and what you feel that could be better. So Until next time, stay safe, be well, and goodbye.